before the historic presidential election. And we saw this week that we had record voter turnout in the state of Georgia, all over the country. But I hope that this trends continue to go, because we're reminded that Donald Trump, no matter what, gets 47% of the vote. 47% of people in the country, they say, are going to vote for him no matter what. So the key is to, of course, get the number for Harris past 50%. Get the folks that are sitting at home and out to vote. And has early voting started in LA yet, in California?
Yes, early voting has started, Nathaniel, and I think that people are beginning to, I don't know what the data shows, that people are beginning to be concerned about the outcome of this election. And it appears as though there are a lot of, I don't know if it's programs or entities that are revealing the contradictions and the inconsistencies and that Trump is making. Let's just hope that young people and all people are paying attention, which it appears they are. More are paying attention to this man. He lies so much, contradicts himself so much that we might win this, hopefully.
Well, I was concerned, Milton, about the fact that this week he's on his dialogue where he talks about the enemy from within. So we have a presidential candidate talk about releasing the United States military on Democrats. I mean, it's the most outrageous thing. And now we hear an outrageous thing almost every day. We're almost numb to it. But, we're talking about what dictators do in banana republics. So we got a guy running for president of the United States, a 34-time convicted felon, got all sorts of criminal cases pending. He had the inability to do business in the state of New York because he adjudicated to be a fraudster. It goes on and on. He got a judgment against him for actual and punitive damage, $95 million for allegedly raping a woman in an apartment store. So it goes on and on and on and on. And now, but speaking of that, let me go through a couple of things that happened. Of all the news stories, 7 out of the 10 news stories evolved around Donald Trump. Starting with the Daniels, Stormy Daniels, back in the news this week in a settlement with her, I guess with her lawyer, they got sanctioned. They tried to put into the settlement agreement that she couldn't make any statements about Donald Trump. They're trying to give her some type of reduction, another hush money attempt, which is kind of bizarre. And then this second lawsuit was kind of bizarre, is that his lawyer got sent to prison for committing a crime on behalf of Donald Trump in part, and the Trump administration tried to do more adverse conditions on him. So he sued, and that is pending before the U.S. Supreme Court by his former lawyer. And it goes on and on. Stormy Daniels' lawyer, meanwhile, Michael Avenatti, as part of this myriad of events, he lost a petition to the Supreme Court to get his conviction thrown out. Then the Trump criminal case in Georgia, Milton, finding Willis are trying to revive part of the counts that were dismissed in that case. And then the bombshell hit this week in the federal election interference case, one in which they tried to overthrow the federal government that we saw on TV. January. This week, Trump said they were kind people, whatever the heck he was saying. They released 2,000 pages of material.
He said it was about love or something, didn't he?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I know it was something ridiculous, but it's Milton. They released those documents, and I started looking at some of the summaries, but it's pretty voluminous. Maybe I'll be able to go through it tonight. But the point is that it's all Trump. I mean, every day in the news, and it gets murkier and murkier. Now, here's what the bottom line: if he was successful and it's 47% and the Democrat votes are suppressed, they don't get out the vote, he end up getting reelected. Don't you think the first thing he's going to do is have this Justice Department dismiss all these criminal charges against him in federal court?
Well, he'd be a fool not to pardon himself, wouldn't he? So,
But
well,
I
I
think
shouldn't say he'd be a fool. Yes, I believe he would pardon himself first. Yeah.
I think that he would just tell whoever he's going to appoint as the Department of Justice, say as a condition, the first thing he had to do is not only dismiss, but say all these charges were frivolous.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think he would do something of self-interest. But as disturbing to me is his colleague, not his colleague, his partner, his friend in Russia got COVID kits. This friend now has the help and the assistance of North Korea special forces to fight the Ukraine. It's just a tumultuous time in our world that we're dealing with, not just right here. You know, we could be on the heels of another big war.
Well, you know, I saw that, and that terrifying that North Korea is sending 1,500 troops to Ukraine.
Special troops, not just troops. These are suicidal troops. These are people, these are guys who've been trained to go in and die for it. Kamikazes kind.
That's really sad because I'm just happy that we're not a part of it. But my concern is, I'm glad that President Biden made the decision early on, Milton, that nobody from the United States will be on the battlefield, because we learned our lessons in Vietnam, and I know that we were both eligible to be drafted back then, right. And we learned one of the biggest problem when you have a war between countries like that. The first thing must be realized: how do you identify your enemy from your friends?
Right.
Because they're Russian or Ukraine, they look alike. And so when you're on the battlefield, it's not like we're fighting the Vietnamese and we had the same problem, was it Viet Cong or North or South. You know, you have to first identify, was this a friend or a foe? And it's a messy war because invariably you end up killing some of your friends. Nate, and, you know, so I don't know.
Nate, this language he's using, though, somebody is coaching this man seriously in the back rooms about setting up the public for what he wants to do. Bring in the National Guards, bring in the military, the enemy from within. The enemy from within. Now we see, I told you this enemy is in here and we got to get them. This is seems like it's a setup for his ultimate goal, which is to take over the government. Whether he wins or not, shit. That's what we're being set up for. It's scary.
Well, you know, the other thing that concerned me is that at the same time, we have people running for president of the United States with all these outlandish things, Milton. It was heartbreaking, for example, to see the level of dishonesty about the hurricane relief efforts. You know, now Good Samaritans are being targeted based upon false allegations made by people such as Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Trump folks. And so now we have people that need help, and you have this barrage of lies. And somebody was allegedly dumb enough to say that somehow Democrats control the weather. You know, it was just so bizarre. And I was thinking about getting a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist on this. I'm trying to understand the psychology as to how people could see things so differently. Remember this week, Milt, During a Trump campaign event, I think Univision, I watched that a couple of times. And this gentleman says he's a Republican. I know you saw this one. He said, I'm a Republican. And on January 6th, 2021, he goes through, why did you not recall the folks or try to assist the vice president? He asked the question is, why do you intervene to try to stop this carnage? And you mentioned it earlier, he said it was an act of love, whatever. But his response, I've watched the audience when he basically said nothing happened and it's an act of love. Looked like everybody in the audience, all the Hispanic folks in the audience had a reaction on their facial response. I don't know if you saw that.
No,
they were saying,
that, Nate.
yeah, I watched them. You watch the video of that, it's like they just turned, some of them just shaking their head saying,
like, you must be crazy.
Yeah, because everybody in America had the opportunity to see part of that because it was on every news channel.
But Nate, he put it out there and his 47% is going to swallow that and they're going to go with that it was a peace party. It was an act of love.
Well,
because our lives are lying to us.
The first part of that, though, that was fascinating is that at first they were saying that the FBI was involved with it. I mean, they had all these crazy theories that, the FBI edged the people on. It was these crazy things. And we saw this front and center. Now, I've not had an opportunity to review all the evidence in the criminal case that's pending in DC yet. It was just released yesterday, and I started looking at the first part of it. And what I'm thinking is that it's going to be some revelation of some serious misconduct. And I think that they're going to tie this directly back to Trump, because part of the things that I saw in the summary was that they had this planning event at the White House itself. And then they're tracing the source of money. And so one of the funds looked like came from Donald Trump Jr., whatever the guy's name, but
well, he said that they had planned to go there for peaceful purposes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the plan. And unless you can refute that, that's what the plan was, and that's what the goal was. But Nathaniel, if I may throw in, and it's not to take it off the subject, but it's part of the subject. I'm reading this book about Muhammad Ali, and it's called Ali, the Life by E.I.G. It's a fascinating book. But one of the things, and I was thinking about it when you started talking, one of the things that come out in this book is Muhammad Ali said, how did y'all decide I was eligible for the draft? When at the beginning, I was examined and I was found to be not eligible. I think it was 4F. 6 months later, there's the decision, I'm eligible. He said, when did I take another test? What is my eligibility based upon? And he asked that simple question all along, and nobody ever answered that question. He never took another test. They don't know, is somewhere along the line, somebody just changed the decision that you're now eligible for the draft? It was because of his political position or his religious position, or they were afraid that he was too influencing of Black people. But that question has been stuck in my mind ever since I read that part of the book. What caused me to now be eligible when 6 months ago I was not eligible? You know the answer to that question?
That's fascinating.
It is, Nathaniel. It's bothersome to me.
I was in the military with a guy last name Williams. He was the last American to be drafted in 1973. His last name was Williams. So the draft ended in 1973, but in Fort Polk Company, I think it was C, and this guy, they did a story on him with Stars and Stripes, Milton, and it was fascinating. He was the last American to be drafted. And what I then learned, you talked about that in terms of the Vietnam War. When I was in law school, we had a gentleman, I can't think of his name, came from the Department of Defense and gave statistics on the Department of Defense in terms of the number of casualties, right? So at that time in the United States of America, I think African American males were maybe 6% of the population of the United States, but they were about 50% of the people that were being killed in the jungle in combat.
Right.
Now, when I was at Fort Polk, we were trained for jungle warfare. And so all these troops that were being trained for to go out in the jungle, and that's where the highest fatalities, of course. But at the time, you don't know that. But then I looked at my military book and I discovered that majority of the people in our unit were Black soldiers,
right,
or Hispanic. And I
Right.
still got the book today that
Right.
shows. And how did that happen? We're such a small percentage of the population. And why did so many of the Black soldiers get put in this unit?
Why did so many poor and minority soldiers go to war when whites did not, especially rich white folks did not go into that war? It's a damn good book.
Yeah. Let me take a caller.
That's the solution to.
Imhotep, turn your, you're on the line now. So
I got it. All right, good brother. How you doing? How you doing?
Doing
Sorry.
great. First question, have you voted already?
No, we're going Monday. Early vote. We're gonna go Monday. At first, I was gonna wait till that day and get a pension and see the crowd and see how many young people, especially young Black men, were in the crowd. Since we've got a lot of them that are Trump supporters, from what the media wants to say, which I don't buy it. But
hey, Imhotep, I need to
yeah.
let you know that we already voted, and I voted also to retain the Supreme Court judges. Our Attorney General got zapped for misconduct by the United Supreme Court. So in retaliation, he's been running a campaign to get rid of the Supreme Court judges who disciplined him for misconduct.
Yeah, he doesn't like any accountability. Tyreek, he's horrible. Actually, he's mad too because the federal court slapped down that 25-foot buffer zone. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago that the media organizations and the ACLU went to court on. Attorney Grimes, I don't know if Attorney Banks is with us, but if so, they had most of these states want to adopt this 25-foot buffer zone, talking about the police, people may get in the way. And so the media organizations here, Indianapolis Star, South Bend Tribune, I think was behind the ACLU, went, sued, and the federal judge struck it down, said it was unconstitutional. The media says they have to be able, under the Supreme Court ruling, to do their job. And filming the police is part of the First Amendment. And what always gets me, Nate, because you're close to them, I work with POW volunteering, so I know a few of them, but I've never talked politics with them, and those are mostly all Black cops. But generally is, if you're doing the right thing, we have cameras all in the hospitals. If you ask anybody to work in nursing homes, assisted livings, who knows, with banks, everybody's got cameras. So what's the problem with people? Why do you are so weary of folks making sure that you do the job properly? Okay, period. That's the issue. But I was happy with that decision. I was happy with the decision in Texas the other day. That was a journalist, matter of fact. She was getting public information about police misconduct. She was publishing it. Villarreal, I think is her name. She was publishing it. And Texas has a law stating if you put out public information before they put it out, then they arrest you. So they arrested her. And she sued first. I think the circuit court found for her, and then the appellate court ruled against her. The Supreme Court struck it down, told them it was unconstitutional. Journalistic integrity. Jail, and people don't believe that the United States has jailed more journalists in the last 5 years, not too much under Biden, but definitely under Trump. They jailed more journalists than they had in the last 30 years. And so this is a problem here. You think about that for China or Russia, something like that, but that's the issue that we're having here. That's a great case. People, if you don't understand that, go look it up. Texas woman wins case, journalist wins case. Supreme Court struck it down. Texas tried to hide their hand all the time down there. Last decision was yesterday that I liked, or the day before, it could have been Thursday, when the federal judge in Florida slapped DeSantis down, trying to threaten local radio stations for not running those pro-abortion ads. You know, abortion is on the ballot in Florida, along with marijuana legalization. Since you brothers want to vote, I put a message out all down there. Since y'all want things and you can relate to Trump, then you should be voting in Florida to legalize marijuana so the police can't just use pretextual stops and start bothering you and pulling you over and walking and this and the third. They won't be able to bother you anymore. So get your butt to the polls for that. He doesn't like that. DeSantis didn't like that being on the ballot either. But that was a great decision. And the judge basically told him, it's the First Amendment, stupid. That's exactly what the judge said, too. I never heard a judge use stupid to tell a opposing counsel that, but that's exactly what he said.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. What do you think about that Puff Daddy arrest in New York? Have you been following that story?
Yes, I have. It's caused some division amongst people, especially in the undercurrent amongst our community. And like I tell them, I've been working in mentoring for 35 years. I work with Brother Kareem Hines over there, a new boy, and they work with children. Grown folks, you get to choose to do what you want to do as long as you're not offending, affecting, or hurting someone else. But if you're dealing with children, which has been alleged that he was trafficking underage women, I have no fault. I have no gall for him. Also, I just go look at what the brother Mace said. The brother Mace has never had too many kind words for P. Diddy or Diddy. And Mace has really kind of stayed away from this a little bit because he went off on him a couple of years ago about owing him money and not paying everybody else money and stuff like that. But for the most part, Brother Mace, who's a minister, married man, family man, has never had too many good words to say about him. And so sometimes you gotta. It's like Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali, when King was the month when King was murdered, he was voted the most hated man in America. So sometimes you got to listen to the alternate voices to really get a feel. And I don't think people are really listening to the alternate voice, which to me would be Mace, who says he really never had any good words about that guy. And that's why he left early on. I mean, he left. He said he wasn't paid like he was supposed to be paid by him. He did mostly all the work, made the beats, the music, and everything. And he just never had anything good really to say. So I would trust his judgment over everybody come out. Well, the government is just trying to bring him down. He put himself in that position. Trust me, rich men can get the best lawyers. You all are lawyers. My mother's attorney, sister's attorney. They get the best lawyers.
Well, here's
get the
my
best
problem.
representation.
Here's my problem. Hey, I read the indictment, and it was suspect because the indictment dealt with an adult woman. So what they're saying he did. Now, the one lady they brutally beat, he should have went to jail for. She got $21 million, right? Which is
the one he jumped on 30 million. Mm-hmm.
31 million.
How much?
Yeah, 30 million. 30 million.
31 million.
Yeah, 31 million she got.
$31 million is what I.
31 million. Okay. So
she filed it on one day and he settled it the next day.
Amazing. So, okay, so that lady got paid. And for that, you can't justify the misconduct, but that's a decent payday.
Yes.
That's the record amount. But here's my problem. My problem is the conduct that I saw. I thought that the Damian Williams, what he did, I thought it was an ethical violation, in my opinion. What he did is that he was saying that he did XYZ. He filed indictment, but the indictment does not particularly identify any minor child or person that allegedly was involved in the sex trafficking.
That's what people are saying.
Identified as an adult, consenting adult. And so what
that's what
I saw
are saying.
was tantamount to prostitution, which is legal in a lot of areas. So I didn't understand that. But the thing I didn't understand is that how could you hold somebody in jail without bail for a sex crime? We're not talking about what I saw was rape. We're talking about what amount was prostitution. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me, and that's why I was stunned by it. And I'm no fan.
And that's what
I don't.
That's what that's what the people. Yeah, that's what people are saying. It's not charged with that, but those tapes. There's something got to be on. It's hundreds and hundreds of tapes. Matter of fact, it's another woman who just filed a lawsuit. Her lawyer was on a couple weeks ago, a black lady, and she was very, very poignant, and she was very, very clear. She said that these people are shopping these tapes around Hollywood, trying to get producers to buy these tapes. So she said she got a call from one of the people who have one of these tapes that actually has the people, the younger women on there, and someone in the tapes with Diddy who is more high profile than him. So the person asked her, well, did you see the tape? She said, yes, I saw the tape, but I told the person from an ethical standpoint, I couldn't represent them or help them do that. So they asked again, but did you see the tape? She said, yes, but I'm not going to say who's on it or this, that, and the third. So the only person I could think that's more high profile than Diddy as far as in our culture would be Jay-Z. And Tyler Perry, I don't think he hung out like that. You know, Robert Smith, the billionaires, they're not hanging out over there. But as in a celebrity point of view, but supposedly there are these tapes and they're being shopped around. Now, if he's not charged with that, that's fine. But you know from anything else, if his lawyers do their job, then he'll walk out of there. Because to me and my mother, we discussed this for a while, the most travesty done to me from a rich black person in the last 5-6 years was Bill Cosby. Let's make no mistake about it. When he paid off and settled, and back when he did the deposition, he was assured that that wouldn't have been used against him. Then they went back in Pennsylvania, changed the law in Pennsylvania to be able to go after Cosby, and they got him, and that's why the appeal court struck it down and set him free. I thought he was really done a bad job, and nobody talked about it. I mentioned it with Tina and them back then. They didn't want to touch it, you know, this and the third. The law is the law. If that man was assured that that was not going to be used, and then they went and changed the law, and then used that deposition in the settlement to jail him, that's why Mr. Cosby's free right now. So if Puffy wants some advice, maybe he need to contact Mr. Cosby and see what he can do.
Hey, by the way, Renee, just call in at 833-653-3529.
And thanks for taking my call, Brother Nate. I hear you all. Thank y'all.
Yeah, 833-653-3529. We get a lot of texts, but just call in because Renee makes some good points about PDAD in New York. But back to this thing, Milt. In terms of the issue of voter suppression and things like that, how do you feel about the effort this year? Do you think that we can overcome that okay?
The what?
The voter suppression. I mean, there's different things that going along in, like in the state of Indiana, for example, our Secretary of State and our Attorney General, the one in Indiana, we have an Attorney General who got sanctioned by the Supreme Court for ethical misconduct. And so that same Attorney General is trying to wage a war against the Supreme Court judges who sanctioned him for misconduct, and he's trying to get them kicked off the bench. I'm in favor of keeping those Supreme Court judges. They did a good job, folks. They did a good job. They should have imposed ethical things on him because he was wrong. And so I'm supporting him 100%. And Todd McKeeter, you know, I think he was wrong. So, but what they did is that they requested the Justice Department to investigate the voters to see whether or not they're American citizens. I mean, when I went to vote, you have to show your driver's license or state issue ID.
Who requested them to be investigated?
Peter, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of State. I can't think of the guy's name. Morales or something.
The Justice Department to investigate the voters?
Yes, to make sure they're citizens. It's just the biggest bunch of malarkey or BS I've ever heard.
What's his suspicion that they weren't American citizens? He just raising that and with no foundation?
Well, I saw it in the newspaper. I have no idea what the hell he's doing.
You can't just raise that and not have some suspicious conduct or information to justify that, can you?
Well, we've only had, to my knowledge, one person in Indiana convicted of voter fraud. So since I've been a lawyer, I can only remember one case, a guy named Charlie White or something, a Republican, for using wrong address to vote. That's the only one I'm aware of in our state.
Well, I've done some voter fraud defense for Mayor Omar Bradley in Compton back in the day when he was the mayor of Compton, and they accused him of some voter fraud that a few deceased people that they were able to point to in the graveyard had somehow miraculously arose and voted for him, 3 or 4 or 5. It wasn't a significant enough number, but we won the trial. It got reversed in the Court of Appeal. But I just can't imagine how you could have an investigation of voters without some foundation, some reasonable suspicion to believe that they're not citizens. I don't understand that.
Well, you know, we see that misinformation every day now.
Okay.
Since I've been a lawyer, I've not seen the level of misinformation ever in American history. And a perfect example was this week by that news channel called Fox. I mean, the entertainment channel called Fox News. And Milt, I don't know what you watched I recorded the interview with Kamala Harris and I think Brett Baer, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is it had to do with the fact that about 3 times Trump has said that basically he considered American citizen enemies, and that he basically want to use the military, and sort of like what a dictator would say. And so Brett Baer played a clip in the interview that was fundamentally false. Basically, where Trump denied it, but it wasn't not the clip where he had said what he was going to do, right? Mm-hmm. Or what he wished or desired to do. And then she kind of lit into him and corrected him. And that's what, and that became really important because during the whole debate, he was excessively rude, I thought, to her. And they were trying to show this thing, and according to, I watched MSNBC this morning, and and the host said that he was trying to portray her as this, quote, angry Black woman. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the point I'm making is that it appears to be a very biased interview, but she's a highly skilled prosecutor, and I thought that she put him in his place.
She has maintained her cool throughout every time I've seen her on anybody's program, including the debate between her and Trump. I give her those kudos. To me, as an advocate and being in the court all of my life, I think she has maintained herself.
Okay, let's go to the caller. Caller, you have a question coming for us today.
Yeah, hi, this is Renee. I'm calling in regards to the P. Diddy comment.
Well, yeah, you said that you're in favor of him staying in jail before you go to trial, Renee. I mean, but I'm saying the actual case against them that they filed only dealt, when I looked at after the indictment, it only dealt with a single woman. And that's what I didn't understand.
What actually, I'm not sure about that. They have lots, like the gentleman before who called, they have lots of tapes. And so there's a lot of evidence out there that they're not releasing to the public. It is not just that one incident where he beat the hell out of that woman. And that's not if P. Diddy would do something that violent to somebody when he thinks nobody is looking, can you imagine what he's done to plenty of people behind closed doors? He is a predator. Epstein didn't get bail either, and he was charged. So, and they kept him in prison the whole time until he was actually tried. This is not about race. This is about the simple fact that this man he's a menace to society for real. There have always been rumors about him. Now there's even speculation, and some people are saying that his girlfriend of all those years who had his twin sons, that he let her die from pneumonia because he wouldn't let her go to the doctor. So, somebody like that should not be able to go out and to be amongst regular people. Now, granted, yes, innocent until proven guilty. However, there's a lot of information out there. Could you imagine what would happen if he went out there, they let him go, and he actually hurt one of these people who is going to testify against them? The courts could never let that down. There's no way. And the person that brought the case, isn't he a black attorney?
Hey, Renee, hold on 1 second. Hey, Renee, Milton needs to respond to that because you get restraining order. You can't contact witnesses. Go ahead, Milton.
my concern with what Renee is saying is that you're seeing a lot of the rumors out there and a lot of things are being said out there. I don't think you should hold a man. Believe me, I have no agreement with what he's accused of having done. But my concern is that you should not hold a person in custody, deny them their freedom, unless you have some evidence of what you're saying that would justify holding them. Either they are flight risk or they are danger to society presently, which is, I think, the standard that they go by, but not just because he's unpopular in the public domain. And there's a bunch of rumors and speculation and lies out there. And I'm not saying that is what it is, but you haven't shown me enough evidence to say he's not facing the death penalty. You follow me? He could be facing 10 years, 15, 20 years. I don't know the length of time he's facing, but you have to justify holding him from his freedom with some articulable reasons. And I haven't seen those, Renee. I'm sorry.
I'm going to respond. I respect your opinion. However, they didn't charge this man because of rumors. They charged him because they have to have some evidence to have charged him. The judge saw it.
I'm sorry.
So I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying that they did not choose this man just because he's Black. And they did not deny him bail because he's Black. They denied him bail because obviously they have some kind of evidence that said we can't let this man go anymore. And if he has plenty of money, he could be a flight risk. He's not like an average citizen that has no money or ways to get out of the country. So I can see them holding him until he has his trial. And this is not just one victim. This is multiple victims.
Well,
Renee,
like I just
here's
said,
my concern. Renee, here's my concern. I looked at the affidavit that led to his incarceration, right? It don't identify a single adult female. That's it. One adult female. And so I was concerned about that. You know, it didn't say that he engaged in sex with 15-year-old children. Didn't say that. And so I was concerned about that. But what concerned me most, and here's the key. When you have a prosecution of an individual, an attorney who's prosecuting them should limit their response to what is contained in the actual indictment, right? What I saw, Damon Williams, who is a person of color, I'm not sure what island he's from, like Barbados, Jamaica, wherever. Damon Williams, the U.S. attorney there, he went on to publicize, and it seemed like he was doing an advertisement to encourage people to file civil lawsuit or to file more cases against him. So it seemed like to me that he was seeking evidence by charging a person and doing this press conference to make these allegations. And I thought that was unethical what he was doing, quite frankly. I thought that he would stay. Yeah,
I've seen that tactic before, and I've been involved in a criminal case that tactic was used. 29 counts of raping young women, 9 different young women. And we got 29 counts of not guilty because we showed that many of those alleged, quote, victims came forward because they were after money. They were after money that they consented to from all of the evidence we dug up. They had consented to the sexual rendezvous or get together or occasion more so than not consented. I mean, I won't go through the litany of lies that these women told during the investigation, but it was obvious they were after money, not justice.
Okay.
That's why they were
I don't.
Pardon?
I said, I don't know the evidence that they have, the AG has, or whoever's filing against them. But what I will say, if he didn't do what the evidence says that he did, then he'll get his chance. Holding him is not going to make him guilty. It's just they're covering their CYA to make sure I don't know what they have. Just because it's one victim doesn't mean he didn't do horrific stuff to this victim that should keep him in jail. Huh?
I said, that's a lot of speculation. You don't know, you don't know. You're admitting that. So we're saying.
Well, I'm admitting that. What I'm admitting, though, is that nobody knows what he may have done while they're holding him. That's everybody above board. Nobody knows except for the Attorney General's office. They know what evidence they have until, you know. So they're making,
you can't ask for my support unless you tell me what you got. I'm sorry. That's not the standard I believe should be going by. It's just like Muhammad Ali saying, what change? What evidence do you have to change me from a 4F to an eligible person to go die? And they don't have any, they didn't have any. They just arbitrarily change his qualification. You know, you can't just accept that.
The judge made that. The judge made that decision. The judge saw something. I'm not a judge. I'm not an attorney. The judge saw something that said, I cannot release this man to the public. I don't know what it is, though.
I'm sorry. We live in a society where we say that due process requires me to see what you saw. That's your right to do process. That's your right to do process.
But Renee,
his attorney,
Renee, we're not saying
whatever the
right or
judge
wrong. You know, we're saying that produce evidence to support the allegation, but that's not what he did. He came on TV and did an advertisement soliciting. He was doing solicitation.
Trying to get there.
You know, that's what bothered me about this whole thing. You know, I don't do criminal law, but it bothered me greatly what the charade he was doing, Damon Williams. I watched it. I said, wait a second. Okay, you make allegation, you're advertising, which I think creates a lot of hysteria. And so whether you're guilty or not, I don't know. You're creating.
They did it for Epstein. They did it for Epstein too. For anybody that is charged with these kind of crimes, they know there's a statute of limitation. So they put it out there. If you know, I've seen advertisements. I graduated from Columbia University. I get advertisements all the time about this doctor at Columbia University that sexually abused women when they were going for their annual checkup. I get it all the time. And they tell me the window is closing. This doctor is not famous. And the window is closing. So yes, they try to reach victims to say, don't be afraid to come forward. If something has happened to you, you need to tell it. Now, I'm not saying that every person that comes forward is legitimate, but I've been a victim of a crime. And let me tell you something. I'd rather that crime never happen to get a single dime. No person who's had this happen to them is out for the money. No person. Cassidy certainly didn't want what happened to her to happen to her. You know,
think you can eliminate the possibility that some people are out for the money. That's the problem we got. I
agree with you, but then you weed those people out. You weed those people out, but that doesn't mean he didn't commit any horrific crime. That all of those women are lying or people are lying. That's all I'm saying. I want to make something
real clear. I think a rape victim is entitled to compensation. Let's make something real clear. I think they're entitled to substantial compensation or sexual assault or otherwise. So we do that all the time. So they're entitled to compensation. So the issue.
Yeah, but it doesn't make that go away. I'm telling you, if you talk to people who've been assaulted, they would prefer that never happened to them to get a damn dime. I know for me, I would care less about the money. I just wish it never happened. And so, and then the thing is that just because a woman is grown doesn't mean she's not being held prisoner or threatened, and she may do some things that she wouldn't normally do because she's afraid of the perpetrator.
Renee, I appreciate your view, but everybody don't hold your standard to the truth. I'm sorry to say that. You know?
Okay, I can accept that. That's true. Okay. There's a lot of innocent people in jail. I agree with you on that. I just don't agree about the P. Diddy case. That's all.
Okay, I got you. I don't like him either, but I want him to have due process.
Well, you're an attorney, so you're supposed
that's personal. I'm saying I have a young daughter, and she's in the music business, 23. I'm afraid every time she step out the door, but I want it to have due process. That's all.
Okay. No, I agree with that. I think everybody should get due process, but all I'm trying to say is, who's to say he didn't? Because the judge saw the evidence. I don't know what the judge saw. So maybe the judge felt like, I cannot give this man bail. He's a flight risk or whatever, as you said. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
Well, thank you very much, Renee, and thanks for calling in today. Thank you so much for your.
I appreciate you guys so much. You teach me a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Pierre,
have a good day.
what's your comment today, Pierre? Hello,
Hello.
Pierre. What's your comment today, sir?
This is Guy.
Oh, Guy, what's your comment today, Guy?
Well, a couple of things. The latest diatribe from Trump is he's claiming that Kamala Harris did not pass the bar exam. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, please, God damn, I'm sorry. No, I haven't heard about that.
Hey,
this
Guy,
is one of his late.
Hey, Guy, listen.
Yeah.
Guy, on our show, we don't allow people to transmit misinformation. So that's obviously a bold-faced lie. And so we're not going to address that. So go on to the next issue, Guy.
I think somebody needs to challenge him on it. But anyway, the next thing was also latest development. I don't know if you heard, but you know, when Trump got in the presidency, he opened up his hotel quite near the White House. Well, it's come out now that he's been charging executive visitors exorbitant room rates, you know, for staying in that hotel. Just little things like that. I just wonder, even though he has a cult of delusion around him, I think it's really incredible that these people are holding him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
We agree with you.
And I think that people need to remember on January 6th, we don't want to vote for a Nero. We don't want to vote for a zero. We want to vote for a Shiro. What do you think?
You talking about the love?
Thank you. Make sure that you go out and vote early, Guy. And we appreciate your coming today. Thank you. Now,
all righty.
Okay, now, Pierre, sorry about that. I thought we had you on, Pierre. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, can you hear me, Nate?
Yeah, loud and clear. I thought you were the guy, but somehow it got in front of you. Sorry about that. So you had a question or comment?
Oh, the comment I had, the way Morales is going after these voters is because they registered without state IDs or photo IDs. So that's how he's trying to get the feds to get on these 400,000 voters, or see if they can be removed from the rolls or whatever, or verify it. But it's not going to work. But that's the basis.
That's his basis for saying they're not citizens.
Yeah, they registered to vote without. It says in the newspaper their registration without submitting state-issued identification or social security numbers, and you know that's why he's looking into it. You can register to vote without a state ID, I guess, but he's wanting that reviewed. I think it's too late, you know, to do some type of review on that, but it's just another ploy. The story's in the Indianapolis Star. But what I wanted to ask Milton and Nate, you guys are big time defense attorneys or whatever. If you got a client and you're going into federal court, state court, whatever court, and they're getting sued, and they start wanting to horse around with the evidence. You know, they want to clean it up. They want to put stuff back. They want to hide stuff, or they want to, whatever. They want to do stuff with evidence that's being complained about. What do you guys call that?
Well, let me Hey, Pierre, let me correct you on
Well,
something.
no, hold on. Is that obstruction of justice?
I only do civil. Hey, Pierre, I'm a civil lawyer. I do wrongful death, product liability, medical mistakes, and I do a lot of wrongful death, auto accidents. So I do a specialized type practice. So I don't do defense work at all. I do plaintiff work. You know, I collect substantial sums of money for victims all the time. That's what I do. But to answer your question, when you tamper with evidence is a pretty serious matter. Under trial rule 11, you get sanctioned against a person for fabrication of evidence. If a lawyer get involved in that, a lawyer would be sanctioned and probably lose their law license.
But is that obstruction of justice?
Pierre,
It could be
in a general sense, but we have a statute or an act out here, I forgot what to call it now, called truth in evidence. That means whatever the evidence is should be on the table. Now you decide legally whether it's admissible or inadmissible. But the truth in evidence, what's on the table, what's in the bag, and that should be how you approach a situation. Now, whether or not this is admissible evidence in this case or not should be decided by a court. But you shouldn't be allowed to tamper with what's in the bag of evidence outside of it being before the court. That's all I can say. And so, yeah, you should hold sides to truth in evidence. What is this evidence? And let me try to get it in or keep it out. But you don't arbitrarily decide to pull it aside or dilute it. You follow me? That's
I follow you.
That's what a trial is supposed to be about.
I just guess what I'm asking is, can you be charged with obstruction if you go putting stuff back? Say, like I stole $100,000, and I said, "Oh God, they're coming. I'm going to put this money back." So, you know, if we're going to court, I'm gonna put it back. Then that way, no harm, no foul.
I think you're answering your own question. You can't just alter evidence arbitrarily because it serves your best interest. So if you got evidence that someone altered the evidence, Pierre, then they should be confronted with that. Whether they're charged or not depends upon the degree of it, I guess, or the significance of it. But that's the best I can.
Okay, I just want to
Hey,
know.
Pierre, there's one other thing you need to know. Hey, Pierre, there's one other thing that you need to know. Now, rarely do the civil courts turn cases into criminal cases. The civil court judges, if they think there's misconduct, they can impose substantial financial penalties on the opponent. So, in other words, they can charge you a big fine. They can charge a penalty. They go in contempt of court. So, the civil court can address issues involving evidence in their system because they have inherent power to do so. So rarely do you see cases leaving civil court going to criminal court because the civil court judges usually take care of the problem that's in front of them.
Well, you say civil court, criminal court. Let's say you're in federal court and you do something like that. Can't a federal judge refer you to the U.S. attorney?
They can do whatever they want to, but they don't need to. The federal judge themselves can hold a person in contempt of court. They don't need to refer. If the federal judge determines
they can.
They have inherent power to hold you contempt. The contempt power of a judge is pretty broad.
If it's done in a case that's before that judge, Pierre, then you go to the judge.
So in other words, they don't need to refer you to the U.S. attorney. They're the judge. They can impose sanctions right there in their court. They have that inherent power. So they don't need to refer you. They can handle the situation themselves.
Yeah. Well, so you know, you don't want to be committing like if you're an accountant or something, you know, you don't want to go cleaning up the record or anything when you know you're going to get sued or you're going to federal court. Hey, get back on topic. I that's all I want to ask you lawyers about. But thank you for taking my call.
Yes,
well,
sir.
Thank you for calling today. And well, Milton, we're at the end of the show. my message to everybody is that we've now seen a record number of people going out and vote early. I want everybody that listen to us to vote early and call at least 10 people to go out and vote. Any closing message, Milton?
No, we've been preaching this for months now to go out and vote, go out and vote. Now we're saying go out and vote early, and I'm saying go out and vote, please. Our future, our freedom depends on it. If we let this man into office, y'all, we're going to see a dark day ahead of us. And I don't think anybody wants it. I was saying, I don't know if I said it on this program, a psychiatrist I know has some old announcements in his office about music concerts and a lot of Black entertainers. And at the bottom it says white only. And then at the bottom of that in smaller print, the colored performance will be like, rather than 7:30, will be 10:30 that night at another venue. We don't want to go back to that separation again, folks. So please go out and vote.
Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Take care, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you, Nathan.